We are North. Michael Sharkie was the response I received last week when I asked you who would win or why North Melbourne would beat Richmond. We are North was your logic.
And that logic was
came out and
spot on the money, Jakey.
It was a good win by North, who I think had one of the youngest lists, or definitely had one of the youngest teams in the comp last weekend.
Very, very, very promising though.
Something like 16 blokes who haven't played 50 games, or
Do you know what?
13 blokes.
I'm almost getting the whiff of a flag just in seasons to come. I'm just getting that little...
That's a spell.
Is it the scent of victory?
I think you merge with some other club, maybe.
I think the scent of victory is just starting to waft in on the Breeze again.
Well, your mob played my mob this week in a grudge match, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but let's just catch up with Nat Edwards first and get all the AFL footy news for the week. G'day, Nat.
Thanks, Jake. Sacked Western Bulldog Jason Ackermanis has hit back at the club, rubbishing claims he was leaking inside information. Ackermanis had his contract ripped up on Thursday after he refused an offer to retire, and coach Rodney Eade says it was the 34-year-old's continual betrayal of the inner sanctum which ultimately forced the club to terminate his contract. Fremantle skipper Matthew Pavlich will play in his side's important clash with the Western Bulldogs on Sunday, despite carrying a minor ankle injury. And St Nick Del Santo will return for his side's big Friday night clash with Hawthorn after recovering from a back complaint, while Hawk star Lance Franklin is expected to play after missing last week with an ankle injury. And that's the latest news, boys. Back to you.
Thanks a lot, Nat. Plenty of ins and outs this week. It's a big week in footy. The axing of Acker obviously being the main one.
The publicity machine. Go on, what's he going to do now?
Yeah, well, I think he's have any difficulty getting work. How do you feel about the whole saga?
Well, you could come and work for the lastwordracing.com.au and we could certainly generate some publicity there.
Any publicity is good publicity,
well,
isn't
definitely.
It?
Well, maybe not. Not if he's leaking my secrets.
Oh, yeah. Heaven forbid.
Would you want Acker in a game of Chinese whispers?
I wouldn't want him in a game of anything, to be honest. I don't think I'd particularly enjoy Acker's company, but...
Mary Salesian reserves could use him at the moment.
Do you want to fit in any more plugs? You just dropped the Last Word Racing and St Mary Salesian Football Club. Just far away. Go for your laugh, Shark. We discussed briefly the grudge match, North and Essendon this week. North are $1.50 favourite on Betfair presently, and Essendon $2.98. We spoke last week of the fact that Essendon were long odds on against the Eagles without any real reason for that to be the case, and I think it's the same way this weekend. I'm not convinced by North Melbourne. They beat Richmond last week, fair enough, but for that side to be $1.50...
Always beat teams below us. We pummel teams below us, and it doesn't matter if you're
some logic, finally.
If you're above us on percentage,
yeah,
you'll pants us. But as long as you're below us, it's a good night nurse.
I was expecting to hear we are North or something similar.
Yeah, well, we are North,
yeah,
and we'll flog you again this week. So.
Yeah, look, I couldn't possibly tip Essendon, despite that's where my allegiances lie, although they don't really at the moment.
Get the cast of the Muppets out, I reckon they'd give it a better shout than that.
Beaker, how good's Beaker?
Dons.
Yeah. The weekend kicks off with St Kilda and Hawthorn. St Kilda 182 and Hawthorn 218. The corresponding match last year is one I hark back to, where the Saints had about 15 withdrawals on match day and Hawthorn were smashed into favouritism late in the week. St Kilda still won that game. St Kilda going only slight favourites, Hawthorn on a roll. St Kilda averaged last week. Rewalt quiet. Who are you tipping in the big Friday night blockbuster at Etihad?
Etihad probably plays to the strengths of the Saints more than the Hawks, but Hawthorn's in form, and form counts for a lot.
They get the man with the biggest chin in the world back as well, Nick Del Santo.
The biggest chin? I've never heard.
Have you seen the size of that guy's chin?
No.
It's like Roger Ramjet.
Huge, is it?
Oh, it's incredible. So,
Chris Dawes has got the biggest head and Del Santo's got the biggest chin.
You're correct.
Put them together, they could be some sort of elephant man-like offspring.
Proposition. I'm not an animal. What I was about to say was I think Nick Rewalt may have experienced the second up blues last week. And I think he'll come back firing and he'll either play on Josh Gibson or some other Muppet like that, in Gillum or someone like that.
As we mentioned earlier, wouldn't it be amusing if both Gibson and Rewalt went down clutching hamstrings at the same moment?
Well, amusing may not be the right...
I'd be amused, so I don't vote for either team.
Very cruel of you. I'm tipping St Kilda in a close one there. West Coast going to game as favourites. Who would have thunk it a couple of weeks ago?
Unbelievable.
$1.98 against Carlton, $2. Carlton are going dreadfully, but surely they're a class above West Coast, aren't they?
You'd like to think so.
Who picks up the Frenchman?
Who's the Frenchman?
Marc Leclerc.
The new explosive forward.
Yeah, the pin-up idol.
I don't know.
The one who has Nat going goo goo gaga.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, she's currently salivating.
That's
off
right.
Screen.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got no
almost
idea.
getting
I don't
wet
even know
feet
who
here.
plays in the back line for Carlton. Who plays down there?
Brett Thornton,
No,
Bauer.
he's too big, isn't he? What about that little ferret Robinson, or whatever his name is?
Mitchy Robinson.
He could go there, could he?
He'd be annoying to play on, I reckon.
I reckon he would be.
I don't think Luccara will kick 12 this week.
I don't think so. I don't think Lucara will ever kick 12 again.
I think Carlton might pick the bundle up again this week, and I think they'll beat West Coast, despite the game being played over in the West. And the other game of interest involving one of the clubs from the West is Western Bulldogs and Fremantle.
Do it for Acker.
The winner of this game will probably finish fourth, despite the fact that there's still half a dozen games to go. 136 the Doggies at home against Freo 370. Freo have just gone slightly off the boil since Michael Barlow was injured a few weeks ago. Pavlich, as Nat mentioned, may be carrying or under an injury cloud this week. With that in mind, and the Bulldogs being a new fierce unit, now that they've gotten rid of the dead weight in Acker, they'll win this, won't they, the Doggies?
You would think so. But isn't it, as you mentioned, Michael Barlow, who would have thought that a first-year player, a rookie no less,
Amazing
would have
impact.
had such an impact?
He'll be
on a
leading
good
the Brownlow
team?
at one point, I think.
Yeah. Snap up those early, what is it, round 11, midway
Yeah.
in front? Just get on, punters.
We'll talk about the Brownlow again just after we get your or Nat's Betfair Big Spruik, Mick, because I think there's a few very interesting things happening there. Ablett, for the first time this season, in fact for about 2 years, not favourite in the Brownlow market.
Wow.
We'll discuss that in a sec. But Nat, give us your Betfair Big Spruik of the week, please. Over to you.
The Betfair.
Okay, boys, my Betfair Big Spruik this week is West Coast to beat Carlton. Good value there at about even money, and Mark Lucara to kick about 10 goals.
Thank you for that, Nat. I'm opposing you this week, but before we get into our tips, Mick, as I mentioned just a minute ago, Gary Ablett is for the first time in recent memory not favourite in the Brownlow medal market. He's been usurped by Luke Hodge of Hawthorn, who's $5.50, Ablett $6.40, Dane Swan $6.60 and Brendan Goddard $14. I think Goddard still represents terrific value at $14.
I concur.
As does Aaron Sandilands at $21. Hodge $5.50, he just continues to play particularly well. Ablett gone.
Don't know about gone. Is he ever gone? He's never far away.
I've just
Gazza,
heard that
is
he's so out of favour down at Geelong. Apparently gets potted senseless in the coach's box. I think he needs to make a decision.
And on the flip side,
And-
Hodgie keeps running around after games,
Yeah.
telling his teammates how many Brownlow votes he's just
Exactly.
just brought up.
They're definitely a happy team at Hawthorn presently, and that makes me sick. Hawthorn are also $10.50 to win the Premiership. Geelong still favourites there at $3.15. The big drifter in the last week has been St Kilda, disappointing last week, $5.50 after being $3.90 last week. Collingwood second favourites at $5.10. And Jack Rewalt, $1.59 to win the Coleman. He's only a handful of goals ahead of Barry Hall, who returns this week. Hall's $3.85.
Bit of value there, you think, Jakey?
Yeah, I reckon. What do you think? Hall's the value?
Well, they'd be the only two that could win. I think we agree. So
Rewalt will probably get Presty this week, and it's always hard to kick goals on Presty. Mick, can I have your Betfair Big Spruik of the week, please? You've been on fire lately.
Well, Jakey, as you know, I'd like to make things difficult myself, so I think I'm going for a 5-leg Oz multi,
Clever.
all head-to-head. Pies to beat Richmond, Geelong to beat Brisbane, just for that 7 cents worth of value.
Yeah. Don't go broke back and win.
Bulldogs to beat Freo, Adelaide to beat Port, and we better throw North in there as well to beat Essendon. So I think that's 5.
Okay. Probably was remiss of us in overlooking the Port and Adelaide hoedown over there, just for punters
Adelaide comes
west
alive.
of us. Port Adelaide 420, outsiders Adelaide 130. Adelaide on fire, they'll win that. That's part of my 3-leg goals multi, which is my Betfair Big Spruik of the week. Adelaide at 130 to defeat Port. I think Western Bulldogs are great value at 136. They'll beat Freo. And Carlton at even money. I think they'll go over to Perth and do the job against the Eagles. About a $5 return there. Mick, very best of luck to you this weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Jake.
Although not the best of luck to North Melbourne, Essendon long overdue,
Just
and
be prepared.
today could be the day. This week could be
75
the
points
week.
plus.
See you later, punters.